Hi.
Hello, thank you so much. Hey, Gen Max, in today's video, we're talking about custom homes. This is actually part of a series. We're gonna talk a lot about custom homes, from like planning it out, what's the difference between a spec home and a custom home, and something that's not even spec, I guess, and then going through construction and whatnot. But I am here at Carlos and Abby's house, and Carlos is a contractor who builds custom homes, and he's going to be able to answer all of your questions. But let's meet Carlos and Abby and hear about their custom home.
Hello, guys. My name is Carlos Gonzalez. I'm an architect and a contractor in La Paz, Mexico area. And this is my beautiful wife, Abigail. We want to show you our own custom home that we buy and we fix, because this was an old structure that were sitting on the market from almost 8 years. It got some potential areas to work with, especially in the structure. We'll talk to you a little bit more about it. We lived in a condo for almost 4 years, and then we moved to another area. And one of the spec homes that we built and sell, we decided that it was almost time to build ourselves a custom home. And we will explain you more details about it. But first of all, thank you very much to do a video with our own house. And well, Abby,
I hope you guys like it and appreciate all the hard work that we have put in this beautiful house.
Okay, so I'm going to release Abby now, and we're going to talk mostly with Carlos.
So the house was like this, the ceilings.
So we didn't lose Abby just quite yet, but I want her to tell me if she could see the vision, or maybe this was her vision and Carlos built it. But the thing that I have with Kat, my wife, is I constantly have a vision, and she's like, oh no, we can't remove that concrete. We can't remove that plant. We can't take anything away. We can add stuff. So I want to know, like, seeing the old house, and we're going to show you pictures of it, was Abby able to see what the future held?
So in that time, we were looking for a house, and we drove by, and I saw this, you'll see it on the pictures. I saw this shape of a house, and I really wanted like tall ceilings and open spaces and big windows. So when I saw it, I thought it could be like a very good idea to like redo it, but to keep the same shapes that the house had already. I think it turned out better than what I expected. And also, well, Carlos has very good, he has a whole team. So they did renders and they did pictures and everything. So at the end, they put more into it than what I was expecting.
Carlos told me that they started construction 8 years before and didn't necessarily do it right, which is actually going to be a good reason to hire someone who knows what they're doing. And we're going to talk about that, making sure that the structure is done right. Like, there's this double beam over my head right now, and that didn't exist at all. Here's the house before, when they first saw it, when Abby drove by and said, hey, there's those bones, look like they're good. And you've seen a couple pictures of after. We're going to go in this video, show you some of the details of the house, because I think that's important for understanding what is a custom home versus a spec home. So before we get into all the extra questions here that I have, the specifics, this is going to be about the difference between spec homes, custom homes, really talk about custom homes. Video 2 will be more about the process of designing, and then video number 3 is going to be more about construction. But before we even get into the questions, I'm going to have Carlos tell us a little bit about his background, so that you can understand more why he's here to answer these questions and not just some guy I found on the street.
Well, first of all, I'm an architect, right? I study architecture in Puebla, in the University of Las Americas. And after I graduated in Puebla, I went to work at Mexico City for a project management company called Bobby's Land Lease. And they took me to Cabo, especially in the area of Puerto Los Cabos. And I was the assistant project manager for a high-end hotel called Puertas al Cielo. That was in 2008. So after I moved to Guadalajara, when that project was shut down during the recession that they had, that the state had, and I was moved to Guadalajara, and I could oversee or supervise a residential tower and also a big commercial plaza. Then I moved to La Paz and started my own company. I decided to be a developer and also a custom home builder because I love architecture, and my approach is besides obviously making profit out of the developments and everything, I like to create unique space, and I like to create these projects and make their dreams come true, right? So most of the clients that I had been that I had the pleasure to work with, they challenged me to create unique places for them. And one I remember really good that my first custom home that I built is called the Baja California Sur. It's in the North Pacific, and it's for a really good architect that from Encinitas, California, and he gave me the chance to build my first own Baja custom home. And it was something really special for me because it has a lot of architecture. So the passion, the passion that I had for this job creates me. So I love my job and I love my work and I love to create unique spaces for my clients. And in Baja Custom Homes, we put a lot of effort and we try to please our clients and make them create or build their dreams. So this is pretty much my experience.
So let's dig into the questions. I've got a lot of them, but let's start out with the difference between a spec home, building a spec home, and building a custom home. And of course, you can move to Mexico and buy into a condo, or you can, of course, rent. You can buy an existing home. But here, let's distinguish between a spec home, which Carlos has built many of those, and custom home, which he's built many of those too.
Well, as you know, a spec home is part of a development or a project, right? And this is more oriented to make a profit out of a product. Most of the times, they're not all the same houses, but they're really similar, and the options that you had are limited. Or maybe you will face a house that is already built, right? Or in the middle process. So you don't have so much flexibility to make your own choices or to modify the spaces. So the spec home is a product that you will find that will satisfy 80-85% of the market, right? And it will adapt to the overall needs of the market itself. While when you're building a custom home, you are pretty much starting from the scratch and you're building something that is unique and that will fit your own necessities. If you have hobbies, if you have passions, if you have some other, if you're an artist or something like that, you will try to create and we will try to adapt these plans and this project to all your needs. So making a custom home is something that is like a custom suit for a client. It takes more time, it takes more risk, but at the end, it's worth it.
Okay, yeah, that is great. I love the custom suit idea. But let's get a little more specific as to the differences between custom and spec.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, the custom home, it's a process, and it starts first of all with the interview, right? As I told you, it's a custom suit, so we need to have an interview with the clients and start nailing down the project. Sometimes the clients bring their own conceptual project from the States or from another architect here in Mexico. And we start working with the plans and tropicalize them and just like adapting them to the needs of the lot, of the sun, of the location, or some other on some other aspects, right, of the lot. But most of the clients came with their own lot that they already choose between some options that some realtors had in the market available. And then we start having meetings with them, checking. I like to ask them the requirements and the satisfactors of the project. The requirements is really straight answers, right? Okay, I need 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, or 2-car garage and a casita. And the requirements are, or the satisfactor, sorry, is more like I want them to be facing the view, or I want them to be separate, or I want to have a direct connection between the living room and the master. So it's adapting to a lot because they sometimes don't find what they're looking for in the market. And in the spec homes, the approach is to have something that is more common or everyone will buy because it's already approved plan with the approved finishes. So it's something that it won't be a high risk. So the clients that are looking for a custom home is because they have something already in their minds that they're trying to figure it out and build here in Mexico. It's more, we like to say in our slogan is building your dreams at Baja, right? So basically when you go with a custom home builder, you're trying to build something that you already know what you're trying to get or you're trying to build, right? So we just help them through the process from the scratch, going through the process of making all the project, going through the structural area, going through the permits, and then building the house.
So I'm going to try to recap a little bit. So custom home, you want this kind of glass. That's a custom home. That is not something that everyone wants. And a spec home, as Carlos mentioned, is something that is designed to please the maximum number of people. It's something that is very marketable. The developer builds it. They've got the risk, and then you go in and you buy it, and maybe you say, okay, well, I want a different countertop, or I want a, different, bathroom sink or something like that. So you get some options that you can customize. But with a custom home, we're talking of going from scratch. I want humongous glass walls. I want a door that's, what was that thing, like 5 feet wide. So kind of, what kind of statements you want to make with your home. If you want to make a statement, that's probably a custom home, because a spec home, as I mentioned and Carlos mentioned, it's designed to be marketable to the maximum number of people. And if you're a little different, a custom home could be just the answer to exactly what you're looking for. But as Carlos said, it does take a little more time, because a spec home, usually you approach it and it's almost complete, or partially complete, or maybe not yet started, but the plans are all there, everything's ready to go. So it's a little bit quicker to get your house, get moved into your house.
Well, most of the things that a client likes in the custom homes is like feature walls. Pools are a really important thing. I think closet, kitchens, everything is according to their needs. And that's something that you work with them when you're doing the architectural plans. Last year, I got a client that she asked me that she wanted to have separate bathrooms in the same master, because the relationship works really good when they don't mess each other, when they're like one of them is really organized and the other one is not. So that's something that a spec home will give you, right? And my wife was telling also about putting 2 or even 3 sinks in the kitchen. Sometimes it helps to wash the dishes, right? And I think it's more oriented into the architectural part. As I told you, sometimes the spec homes is something that is made in order to satisfy the whole market, and it's something more standard. But if you want to create like a beautiful accent from a ram earth wall or some concrete exposed wall, some stuff, those are unique features that you won't find on a spec home.
I love the master with 2 en suites. That's just a great example. Like if that's what's right for you, you're going to have to get a custom home to have that feature. And why not? Things here in Mexico are more affordable than most places in the U.S. So you can get the things that you want that you maybe only dream of. Here, Abby was just saying how they like to entertain. So those double sinks work out well. The amount of space that is kind of the entertaining space, this dining room table seats 8. Not a lot of homes have a space that fits that really well. But let's dig into why people choose custom homes. We've talked about what's custom, but why is it that people choose it?
I think the first reason is like when a client comes to La Paz, they shop around and they have they look for lots and they look for houses, right? And sometimes the houses available on the market doesn't suit their needs or doesn't suit all their needs, right? So, and the second one is they want to be part of that community. And there's some communities like Haciendas Palo Verde or maybe Pedregal or some other areas, and they only offer lots. So you need to provide your own plans and build yourself a custom home, right? And I think that the third and most important is like is for someone that wants to create something unique and they really want to build their dreams, right? So I think that's the three more common reasons that why someone builds a custom home.
So I promise we're going to talk dollars, but first we're going to talk time. So let's talk about the time difference. Does it take more time to build a custom home than a spec home?
Well, of course, the spec home most of the times are built. Sometimes they are on a pre-sale or they are in the middle of the construction process. But building a custom home is spending time with the architect. It could take maybe a couple months until you have a full set of plans. It depends on the clients. There's a review process that could be up to 1 month or 3 months, right? And if there's any guidelines like an HOA that you will need to put on some review committee, it could take more for the revision. That's the case in Pedregal or Haciendas Palo Verde. But if not, if you're just submitting the plans to the municipality, let's say that it's almost 2 months, right, to create the full set of plans, and or we call it Proyecto Ejecutivo. After that, yeah, well, we go into the review of the bid, right, because it takes times after we finalize the project to have a bid in order to that the client could review and analyze. Then is the contractual part, and then when everyone is happy with the project and the numbers, we need to submit permits, and then we can break ground. So I think thinking about a 2,000 or even a 3,000 square feet house, the process could take around 1 year.
Okay, so that's about a year extra. So get started right away if you want to build a custom home. And now let's talk price. Ideally, price per square foot, which is not really how U.S. dollar prices per square foot, which is not how houses are priced down here, but it's probably for people who are watching this, that's the best way to do this. Spec homes almost always come with the lot. So I'm going to have Carlos kind of try to peel that out so that we can compare apples to apples, whereas custom homes don't come with a lot, but we're going to compare the actual construction cost as best we can. And as I mentioned earlier, we're talking about La Paz, Mexico. So we are out here on the Baja Peninsula. Things are more expensive typically on the Baja Peninsula than they are on the mainland. A lot of stuff has to be brought over from the mainland, and labor costs are a little bit higher here. So let's hear, though, in this area, what Carlos's experience has been in terms of dollar amounts.
Well, as we were talking about, always the custom home has some other finishes that are not so common, right? So right now with an exchange rate of 17 pesos per dollar, I think that we can say that the spec home with the standard residential finishes will be somewhere around $150 per square foot, against a custom home will be somewhere around $200 per square foot. But that could fluctuate between the selection of the materials. Something that really helped the spec home is that you're making 3 or 4 houses with the same materials and the same finishes, right? So that helps to have a bigger volume on buying the materials. And when you're doing something custom, you need to do a little bit of this and buy a little bit of that. So that's when you can just get the maximum efficiency of the materials, right? And also takes more time, and you need to have more detail to the finishes, and requires more time because you need to be supervising them.
And just for a little bit of comparison to the United States, I live in Portland, Oregon, when I'm not down here in Mexico. And just doing some research online with some of the custom builders up in Portland, $400 a square foot was pretty average starting price. So yeah, things are half price down here compared to the US, approximately, a little bit less on the mainland. Carlos has some experience, as I mentioned, over on the mainland doing construction too. So when there's something that's important, we'll call that out. Okay, so let's get into the type of person who builds a custom home. And Carlos earlier broke it down into 3 types. It was a person who just couldn't find something on the market that they wanted. It was a person who wanted to live in a specific neighborhood, so they needed to get a house built there. But I really want to focus on type 3. I don't know if I can even make my fingers do that. And that is the person who wants something unique, because that's the type of person I am. I don't want a house that looks just like my neighbor's house. And I want something where people walk in, like I walked in the door here and I was like, wow, that's what I want, is the wow factor. So let's hear a little bit about the people who are in that third group who want something unique.
Well, most of all, these clients that are looking for something unique, they pretty much know what they want before they approach me, and then they came with some of examples of the houses that they want or what they want to create. One of the houses that we are building right now in the Pacific is a family that all of them are surfers and they are artists, right? And this is not a typical house. It has a lot of storage for boards. It has a lot of outside area, right? Because they like to live in the outside. They had a lot of space in the garage, so they can have their ATVs and their bicycles. And basically, since they are artists, they want each bedroom to be painted in a different color. They had a lot of textures. They had a lot of spaces that are architecturally very rich. So this is the chance for someone to have something that is unique, and there is not common to see in all of the houses that you will find here in the area.
I love the example of the people with lots of surfboards. There was a custom home in one of my videos, Gary. It'll be in one of these corners up here. You can check out his home. One of the things that was important for him was they collect artwork from around the world. And he needed a wall that was white and from the first floor all the way up to the top of the 3rd floor so they could just display artwork. It was just amazing. But once again, an example of saying, telling your architect, this is what I want. That wouldn't have come in a spec home. But now let's talk about whether these sell in dollars versus pesos. So once again, spec versus custom. Are you paying in local currency or other currency?
Well, after we finalize the process of the full set of plans or the proyecto ejecutivo, we deliver to the client the bid, and the bid is in pesos, right? We always put a reference on the number, and we like to give that reference to the client. But especially in these last years, the fluctuation of the dollar has been crazy. No one expecting this, and I think that we have been like 15% below the usual value of the dollar against the peso. Last year we started at 20 pesos, and right now we're 17 point something. So as a builder, I always recommend my clients to pay in pesos, because if I will building in dollars, I will need to have a certain warranty, or maybe put a threshold or something like that we will make us to recalculate the bid in pesos for the dollar if it goes below 16, or if it goes to the other side, that will be on my benefit. But I think that the best thing is to bid in pesos and pay in pesos. So I always recommend my clients to always change or convert the dollars to a Mexican account if they can use a bank like exchange rate bank that will help them, and that way they will always have the resources at a good exchange rate.
Yeah, Carlos makes a great point there about kind of storing your money in pesos because the dollar could change a lot. And of course, I like the bank Actinver because you can get a really great, not only a really great exchange rate. So if you are exchanging into a different bank, make sure your exchange rate is good. Check on that. You can get that good exchange rate, but you can also invest here in Mexico. And because of the interest rates are so high, you can actually make money while you're waiting for your house to be built. So it's just some things to consider. Also with spec homes, Carlos was telling me that they are usually listed in dollars because remember, this is a marketing thing. Spec homes usually are complete or almost complete. So they're able to know exactly what it's going to cost in dollars when the house closes. So it's a little bit different, but when you're starting out construction and something is going to be built, you're more likely to pay in pesos because the builder is paying for materials, they're paying people in pesos. This, we're in Mexico. This is the country's currency is pesos. So expect to pay with pesos. Another question I had was about big versus small, because it seems like, this house is big, and it seems like a lot of custom homes are big. So can you get a tiny home that's a custom home?
Creating a custom home, it doesn't have anything to do with the size. Obviously, as you mentioned, the clients that has a custom home, they are a little bit more flexible with the budget. But I think creating architecture and as in a tiny project, it's more challenging, and actually it could be really interesting. And we started doing social housing here for developing, and I really like it. So it's more about what experience of and what type of project you're trying to build, right? So it's flexible. We can do even small garage, we can do small casitas, we can do studios, and they're really interesting to do, right? So I think building a custom home is more about the type of architecture and the type of project that you're looking for.
And actually, I did a really quick interview, a quick video about Tim and Julie's house. They live part-time in Oregon, part-time here in La Paz. You'll find that one up here. And they have a tiny home. It's actually just 2 rooms, but it is right there overlooking the Bay of La Paz. I believe it's a custom home. I don't think they could have just found a spec home for that particular lot. Check that out. Really, when you're looking at tiny homes, sometimes trying to fit everything you need into a tiny space forces you into some really interesting architecture. But let's talk about being in Mexico. Do you need to be in Mexico if you're going to be building a custom home?
I think that 95% of our clients who are building a custom home are not in Mexico, right? They actually like to be present in some milestones during the construction. One thing that I think that is important is before breaking ground, we chalk the lot and we walk the lot, right, to check or define the orientation, right? Especially if it's a big lot and the house could be rotated, right, or it can be placed in a precise point in the lot. The other thing is that if you want to be present when we pour the roof, that's something important. There's a really nice tradition that they throw coins in the first footing of the foundation. That's something really cool, and it's really nice to have pictures of your house when you are just in the dirt and they are present there. The other milestone that I told you is the pouring the roof. And the final is when you're doing like the hand picking furniture, or maybe you want to put some artwork, or you want to do like some special requirements, or if you're bringing some stuff from the States or from Canada, if you want to travel with some personal touches that you want to give to your house, right? But we create a work group with the clients, and they are, maybe they just visit 3 or 4 times. They don't have to be present. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to have the clients here because they're wandering around all the time in the construction. But we like to have a really good communication with them, and we share twice a week pictures of the process, and they seem to be happy with that. Also, we develop a system that helps them to work to all the changes and the change orders, the upgrades, and having that communication right now with all the technology that we have, creating video conference calls or just sharing the documents with the work group, it makes it really easy, right? So I think you don't have to be present. It's only when we sign the contracts, or even it could be signed by DocuSign or some other platforms. So you don't have to be here. It's good to have you here, and then you can be part of the process. It makes it really interesting. But if I were going to advise the clients, I will tell them that be present for the signing of the contract and going through all the last details of the plans. If you can be around our assistant or the architect to check the texture of the filling of the finishes. So one thing is looking them on a photo, and the other thing is fill them, right? And that, as I mentioned, the to walk down the lot when it's chalk, and I can show you this is going to be the view that you have, and this is going to be the first thing that you will look when you wake up. It's really nice. This is going to be the entrance, and you can be seeing this tree or that view. So that's really cool. When we put the roof, it's sometimes we make a big carne asada for the workers, and the clients like to be involved as well. And the last walkthrough right before you receive your house, and pretty much you can start putting the furniture or the extra appliances or whatever you want to bring.
And Carlos was telling me the other day about a client who had them buy everything. They wanted all the furniture, all the appliances, everything done for them so they could just step right into the house when they arrived. So the possibilities really are endless. But let's talk about, say that you're now sold. You're sold on the idea of a custom home in Mexico. What is the next step you can take?
Well, once you decide that you want to go with a custom home, I think that the most important thing is to nail down the lot, right? And start with the process of the plans, right? And this will require that you ask your realtor, or you can ask for some referrals, maybe in the neighborhood that you like, or maybe with a realtor that help you to pick the lot. Sometimes I have been reached out by the clients that haven't bought the lot, and they want me to join them or give them advice about the area or about what are the challenges of the lots that they're going to buy, right? So I think the first step is to buy the lot. Make sure that you're buying or you do a title search of the lot that you're buying, that it has all the paper in line that you need, so you don't have any surprises. And then what I do is that we usually start with surveying the lot, checking all the documentation that the lot that you buy is actually the same physically and in the paper. And then we start with the process of the architectural review until you're satisfied. And then after we have the full set of plans, we give you a bid. If you decide a bid and we pretty much clear the budget area, we sign a contract, and then we're ready to submit after you close on the lot, and then you have everything in order. We can submit a construction license for this project, and then we can start breaking ground.
Okay, we're going to have another video. Video number 2 is really going to go into the details of what Carlos just touched on, which is the process of designing your custom home. But let's see here. Say you're not in La Paz area and you can't hire Carlos, or you want to hire a different person. I want to hear kind of some thoughts on finding a custom builder. Say you're in Merida.
Well, I think that the most important thing is that you own your project, right? You already have your lot and you own your project. So some builders will tell you that I give you the plans for free and I can do the product for free, and then we start the construction. So you need to have clear that nothing is free, right? So pay for an architect. Some builders or some custom home builders have their own design department like we do, right? And we can draw the plans and fulfill all the aspects of the proyecto ejecutivo. But just hire an architect, right? Choose wisely and don't feel with the obligation to be building with someone because he already went through the process of designing your house. And because at the end, if you decide that you don't want to go with that builder, he will own the plans and he will share them with you, and you will waste a lot of money. I think that in Mexico, it's all about the professionally, right? So try to hire someone that has a good reputation in the area. You can talk to your closing agent, you can talk with your realtors, you can even walk with the neighbors and ask them who designed or who built their houses. And after choosing the architect, and when you have a full set of plans, you can also you can look for a couple or even 3 builders with your own plans that you can give them to create a bid, right? And then when you have these 3 options, you will have more freedom, and you will have time to compare that these prices are actually between the range, right? And it's all about looking for someone that is professional, that is stable, that has a good reputation, and most of all, had built houses or had done projects in the area that you already choose.
Yes, this is all really good advice, because I wish I had gotten this advice a couple years ago. Some of you who have been following this channel know exactly how my build went, just the stuff that's going on in the yard. And so a couple things. My architect did not have a physical address, a physical office, and that's something Carlos said, you probably should have a physical office. And the problem there is when we went to take him to Profeco, essentially to sue him, we couldn't find him. It was quite the project to find a physical address where we could serve him the papers to get him into court. That was one. Number 2 was getting references. I would say get references from other gringos. We got references from our Mexican neighbors, and there's a difference in the process and the product that typically what Mexicans are looking for and what Canadians and Americans are looking for. So finding a contractor or an architect who's used to working with people from north of the border, that is going to be another important thing. And a website is something, websites aren't really super common here. So if someone has a website, there's probably a decent chance that they're more professional. And speaking of websites, Carlos does have a website, so you can go and check out some of his projects, get to know him a little bit better. Otherwise, you can go to the video number 2. Each of these is going to come out. It's going to be kind of a slow coming out, but if you're watching this in the future, you'll be able to watch all of them over here. Otherwise, wait for the next one. Be sure to press subscribe, and you'll find some other great videos up here next. Hasta luego.